Hello, my name is Allen Newberry, and today we're going to be taking a look at silver wire inlaying, and we're going to do it on this brut-de-forge knife right here. So let's go take a look. The inlay project for today is my logo, and so what we're going to do is we're using walnut for the wood, and this is a brut-de-forge knife, kind of in the style of Joe Kiesler, who is actually who I learned silver wire inlay from. First thing you're going to need is a hammer. You can use like a tack hammer, but generally you're wanting a very light hammer, preferably with a polished edge. You want to use a silver wire, which is actually a flat ribbon. You can see there it's pretty skinny. It's about the width of an X-Acto knife blade, which we'll see here in just a minute. Right here we have the tools that we're using, which are basically X-Acto knives that have been put into little jeweler's handles, and they're just cut down to smaller sizes, and we'll use those here in a minute. You also can use a little pusher there, which kind of resembles a small screwdriver, and some little wire nips there to cut the wire. And we also have some sandbags. Traditionally a lot of people use the graver's balls that engravers will use. Here's just a little sanding block that I am going to use on the handle. The first thing that you're going to want to do is come up with the design. So I've done that, and I just drew it up on paper and worked on it till I kind of liked it. Then I'm just going to draw it to where it fits nicely on the handle with a pencil, and you can even erase on there. It works out pretty well. You could also use carbon copy or something like that to transfer a pattern. Next, we're going to cut a groove for the wire to sit in. So we're using these tools made from the modified X-Acto blades, and we're pushing straight down into the wood and just kind of starting where the previous cut was, and then just pushing down, then moving over just a little bit more, and eventually cutting out the entire pattern, or at least in this case the section of the pattern, because I like to do it in little sections. This wire is a pure silver that is half hard, so it's a little springy, but not incredibly hard, and it's enough that I can wiggle it around pretty good. I like to rough it up with a little bit of sandpaper to give it just a little bit of extra grip. And now we're ready to put the wire into the handle. So we just line it up with the groove and start in one of the corners there. And then you're going to want to pre-bend it before you put it in the wood, any curves that you're about to go in. Or you can even kind of bend along the way, which I'm kind of doing here. And then as I just kind of pushing it in there with my fingers, and then I'll go back and get my hammer and then just tap it in the rest of the way, and just do it in little sections like that. So after that I just continue on with the process, cutting more of the pattern out and inserting little sections. So it's not all one piece of wire. Anytime the wire hits an intersection, then that's going to be the end of that piece of wire. So it's actually several little pieces of wire that go into this. And so I just keep working along, cutting longer grooves. You have smaller of the cutting tools for little areas and curves, and then larger ones work well if you have a long stretch to go, so it just speeds up the process. So we just insert it there into the handle, and then we'll make our little bend, and then just continue on with the process the same way as we did on the previous section. I've got the little push tool right here, trying to use that to help me make the bend. That's good also if maybe a little piece folds over a bit. You can use that to kind of push a little bit on it. It's just kind of a handy tool to have. It's not much different than a screwdriver that's just kind of been a little bit polished to keep from scratching everything. As I go along, I like to kind of hammer in the little sections. So here I've got that first part, we've gone around that corner, we've set up the next corner, and now I'm just going to go ahead and tap that in just a little bit more, and then that section's going to be pretty close to done. We just looks like I have a little bit of curve, I want to get it in just a little bit more, so I use my push tool there and then get that lined up nice, and then I can kind of figure out how long that wire needs to be. Then I can clip it with those little wire cutters, and then I can hammer it in the rest of the way. Silver wire inlay is really pretty fun. I find it kind of relaxing, and it's an interesting way to embellish a knife. I learned from Joe Kiesler. I know he's got some books on handles and guards and brut-de-forge that have some information in them on silver wire inlay. I believe he's also written some magazine articles for Blade magazine on that, and you can find some of that on the internet. Jay Hendrickson also has a video available through the American Bladesmith Society that will show you his techniques. They're both pretty similar techniques, the way that they do them, but I think they use different widths of wire that they like, and maybe a few things are a little bit different, but it's basically the same. Once I have the wire all inlaid, I like to go back over it and make sure I've got everything hammered in nice to a good depth. Really, I'm looking for it to be just kind of close to the top of the wood. I'm not wanting it to go down further. I don't want it to go too far in the wood. I want it to maybe stick out just barely a little bit. So that's where we're at here. After that, what we're going to do is get just a little bit of water, rub it on there, and use that to kind of try to swell that wood back up to grab onto the wire, because we just cut a groove in there. So all we did was push the wood out to the side, and now we want the wood to swell back up and hold onto that wire really well. So now that it's soaked in a little bit, I'm going to use this hair dryer to warm it up just a little bit, and that will help it also to swell back more towards its original position. Then go back and take some sandpaper and sand down the parts of the silver that are sticking up, and then you'll also continue to go down the different grits until you've obtained the finish that you're after. In this case, I'll probably use some true oil and steel wool and make something really nice that way, but I'm not going to do that here on the video because I have to come up with another design for the other side of the knife before I go and finish the handles. The silver wire inlay is a fun way to personalize a knife. This knife I actually made for myself, so it's got my logo on there, and I'm really liking it.
I hope you had as much fun watching this video as I did making it. It was a really fun time for me because I was hanging out at a cabin with my brother Tim and my friend Johnny, and we were just hanging out, making stuff, and enjoying ourselves. So if you have any questions about the process of silver wire inlaying, feel free to put them in the comments section down below, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.